Good afternoon. I am here to share with you Big Experience 2 for today. Do me a favor, remember our thumbs up and thumbs down? Give me a thumbs up or down to let me know if you like apples. I've got a great big apple here. We're going to talk about apples today. And we're going to start by reading this book called The Apple Pie Tree. The Apple Pie Tree. This book is not only about apple pies, it's going to tell us about the seasons as well. Listen as we read it and see if you can hear anything about the different seasons in this book. My sister and I have a tree that grows the best part of apple pie. Can you guess what that would be? Apples. And every year we watch our apples grow. In winter, our apple tree is brown and bare. See the apple tree in the winter? But in spring, leaves grow on every branch. Look, 2 robins are building a nest in our tree. See the little green leaves start to form? And the robins, tiny pink flower buds appear on the branches. The robins chirp loudly, guarding their eggs. Now see the little pink flowers that are on the leaves? Those little buds are flowers all closed up, and when those open, there will be a little flower inside. Just when the flower buds open, baby robins break through the eggshell. Oh. Remember, we talked earlier today about new life. There's some baby birds. And look at those flowers. They're not little buds anymore. They're like pretty flowers on the tree. We have some of those on our tree at our house. It's a pear tree, and the flowers are white. Now our tree is covered with blossoms, and the baby robins begin to grow feathers. So when their tree gets blossoms and it's covered with blossoms, the baby birds are starting to grow feathers. Blossoms are the big open part of the flower with all the petals. When breezes blow, the petals fall to the ground. Mama and Papa Robin teach their babies to fly. So we've seen this at our house already. Little white leaves are starting to fall off our pear tree. These are the leaves that are falling off their apple tree. Some days it rains and the wind blows hard, but our apple tree is strong and the robins are safe in the branches. We've had some strong winds. If you remember, it's probably been over a week ago. The wind blew really hard and there were some big storms. That's part of spring, and the robins stay safe in the big tree. Small green apples grow where the blossoms used to be. So after the blossom comes off, there's these tiny little things. Can you see them on the leaves? Little green blossom, little green buds, little green apples, actually. They just look like a tiny little spot, but they are the beginning of an apple. Soon in the summer, the apples will get bigger. The little robins have grown up, but they visit every day. So it's summer, and can you see on the tree? The little green apples have gotten bigger, and they're playing in the sprinkler. And there's the robins. They come back to visit every day. The branches bend low. They are covered with big, round apples. Look how the apples have gotten bigger. And who's eating them? There's a deer And if you look on the ground, there's a squirrel gathering some of the small ones up. Now it's autumn. Autumn is another name for fall. Look how big the apples are. Now it's autumn. The apples are red and ready to be picked. We fill our basket to the brim. That means to the top, very top part. We fill our basket to the brim. Mom and Dad help us peel the apples. We cut them up and pile them into a pie shell. Then we sprinkle cinnamon sugar on top. Mom puts the pan in the oven. See all their apples in their pie pan over here? They took off the peeling, cut them up. Do you guys remember what they sprinkled on top? Cinnamon and sugar. At last, the pie is cooked and ready to be eaten. Our tree has grown an apple pie and it smells so good. And it tastes delicious. There's nothing as good as an apple pie you grew yourself. They did all the work. They grew the apples, picked them, peeled them, cut them, got them all ready for the apple pie. And on the back page, there's a really cool thing about how bees help apples grow. That's a whole nother lesson. That's a great science lesson. All right, so as I mentioned, we have this great big apple, but it didn't start out on the tree that way, did it? No, it did not. An apple, actually, I cored an apple, and this is the very middle of my apple. You can see the seeds in there. That is the very middle of that apple. Right inside here, this is the stem where they picked it off the tree, but right here on this end, this is where the apple started to grow. It's actually where the flower was on the tree in the picture. So let's draw a little timeline about the apple. So we know that in the winter, was anything happening on this tree? This is my tree for winter. My winter tree. The branches are bare. Not much is happening. In the spring, after the winter, in the spring, little flowers and leaves begin to appear on the tree, right? We have some little leaves everywhere starting to appear on the tree, right? Okay, and some little pink buds. What are those buds going to be? They're going to blossom into flowers. So on this tree, so in the spring, they start out as those little leaves and the small buds, and then they start to get flowers on them. So we'll add some petals. And then, as it approaches summer, more leaves, lots and lots and lots of leaves all over the tree. Remember, in our pictures of summer, there's just so many leaves, I can hardly draw them all. I'm going to draw them quickly today to give you the idea. But there's lots and lots of leaves. So many leaves, you can barely see the branches. Okay? So all these leaves cover the tree, but those little blossoms that were flowers, the flowers they start to fall off down here. There's little petals all over the ground that that come off in the spring, and little green buds have started to grow on the trees where the buds were. Would you want to pick and eat these tiny little apple buds right now? Probably not. They would not taste good. You would say, that is not the apple I remember. But in the fall, the leaves are still very big, lots of leaves. But boys and girls, what happens to the little green bud? What happens to that? If you said it turns into a bigger red apple, you were right. So I'm going to draw lots of big red apples, and the branches get heavy because as the apples grow, they weigh down the branches. And that is what in the fall or autumn, the apples are ready to be picked. So you can pick the apples and eat them. You can wash them. You want to wash them no matter what you do with them. And you want to eat them or peel them and cut them and make apple pie or apple crisp. People love those things in the fall. It's a wonderful fall food. And just eating an apple right off the tree is the best too. So let's look. We have the tree in the winter, it's bare. The tree in the spring with the little green leaves and the buds trying to open up. The tree in the summer where those pretty blossoms from the spring have blown away and the little green apples begin to grow. And in the fall, they turn into those large red apples hanging all over the tree. In fact, the tree branches hang down so low, the animals come to try to get them. Some of the animals can reach up to the bottom branches, and some of the animals wait for them to fall to the ground, and then they eat them. Well, that is the stage of the apple tree. The apple tree needs every season to be able to grow. Well, that's kind of a neat lesson. You could draw your own apple tree. Right now in the process, since we're in the spring, what do you think would be happening on the apple tree? If you said that the apple tree would have, in the spring, would either have buds or flower blossoms, you're right. That's right. So apple trees are kind of exciting because that's where we get our apples. And if you liked apples, if you had a thumbs up at the beginning, then you probably really like this. If you're not a big fan of apples, maybe you like apple juice or applesauce, and you still need the apple trees for those too. Thanks for tuning in for Big Experience 2. We're going to talk about patterns in Big Experience 3, so I'll see you then. Bye.